Welcome to my perspective channel and subscribe this channel for more interesting and crazy content. Second part, and now we look into the material issues that made sociology over a period of time. The early societies, when we look into, mostly rural and they were mostly peasants and landlords. And of course, if you want to look into the stages of evolution, we can look into the Karl Marx. That is not actually in the book, and I have studied earlier. They are the early primitive society, which is mostly egalitarian, and then the slave society came, and then this landlord, what is it called, feudal society, and then capitalistic society. And as per Marx, there should be a transitionary revolution by proletarian, and then again a communitarian society, that is egalitarian society again, which is similar to the primitive society. Actually it didn't happen, it actually modified. Now it is modified form of capitalism, not the true capitalism that used to exist when it began. How it began and what are those characteristics, we will look into that later. Now we look into the early societies, which were actually rural, and peasants and landlord relationship used to be the primary relationship, and there are some other crafts too, like blacksmith, potter, barber, etc. And the societies were simple and small. But with industrialization, most of these, actually majority of these features changed. But the negative aspect, if you look into, is degradation of labor and decline in the status of common laborer. And there is no need to mention the skilled craftsman. Actually, it led to the disruption of the skilled craftsmen and the handicrafts industry of India. Actually, these are the side effects, not the side effects, these are the impacts of British colonialism in India. Urban centers actually grew. Some sociologists actually said that earlier there used to be urban centers, but their features were different. And after the industrialization, different type of urban centers developed that we witness today. New kind of social interactions to develop over a period of time. The factory conditions actually resembled barracks or prisons, but Marx actually said they are potentially liberating. This is due to the fact that he thought, as I said, is it gives rise to transitionary phase of proletarian revolution, because the functioning of coordinating efforts and collective functioning, etc., will be developed in factory conditions due to the common sufferings of the laborers. And one major change is clock time aspect. Earlier, the work is scheduled as per the daylight, and the break between the tasks are voluntary, and other social duties too impacted the work of any person, be it in a factory or be it in a farmland, etc. But when factory production started, it actually began punctuality. The clock is set, the fixed hours and particular days, and the pace at which the work is done is steadily increased. The urgency to work started. Now it's my perspective, that is all those who are going to offices will definitely relate to this, and they will feel happy if the society used to be like earlier, where there is actually no clock. Now the time is money, and the time is now not passed but spent. Is actually, for me also, it's unfortunate. Comment your reflections on this. And you may also ask me the question that why everything of sociology, the study of Indian societies, be linked to European studies. The answer is relatively simple, because our history is linked to the British colonialism and capitalism, which actually shaped our Indian society to a greater extent. This is the reason why we have to start with the roots, that is how British colonialism started, what are the conditions that existed there, and thereby we can get to the knowledge of British colonialism and capitalism and its impact on Indian society as well. We should also not forget the fact that the slave economy actually got a boost during the British colonialism, especially its inception in Africa. If you look into, as actually ended in 1800s, still till the 1800s, the most of the Africans were displaced from their homeland. It's estimated that around 24 million Africans were displaced and were taken to far off lands, and they even couldn't return to their homeland. And over the period of time, the next generations to evolve, over there, and they even face racism too. That's altogether a different context and different problem. And for India, in 1800s it started, and we Indians too have faced this mass mobilization, and we Indians were transported to far off lands like Suriname in South America and West Indies and Fiji Islands. We even know that V.S. Naipaul, the English writer who won Nobel Prize, is a descendant of one of those thousands who were taken to the far off lands. Now we look into the scope of sociology and its relationship with respect to other science disciplines. As we have studied in the first part, the initial part, with respect to job and the factors that affected the study of the choosing a discipline or a subject and the job market, etc., which is further getting impacted by other social, economic, political factors. We even come to know that everything is impacted by other thing. So every discipline is now interconnected. Now we look into that aspect. First we look into the sociology and economics aspect. Economists actually measure everything with respect to poverty, with respect to economy, GDP, everything. But the main drawback with respect to economists is that they suffer from, they neglect individual behavior, cultural norms, and institutional resistance, which sociologists study. These aspects actually make difference, because if we make an economic plan and there is institutional resistance, there is sociological resistance for this plan, then that policy will not get implemented. Recent formulas is such an example. With respect to their cultural norms or their economies, their estimates, everything has to be inclusive, right? So we have to get into the sociological part while formulating any economic policy. To the matter of fact, any political aspect too, and we look into that later. And then the crimes and suicides that are happening in the society are actually have to be studied by economists too, because it has an economic angle that is affecting the people. Hence, what the activists have to do, what should be their goal? It should be the economics of happiness. That should be their goal. Of course, socialists does not provide technical solutions to any question, but they encourage questioning a critical perspective. As we said in the common sensical part, the sociology questions its own basic assumptions, its earlier sociology studies, and it even questions economic policies too. And hence they not only gives a desirable goal but also a technical means, facilitates that by discussion, by inclusiveness, by public participation. With that, the academics succeeds. And now we look into the political science aspect that actually touched a 2 minute ago, that is a couple of minutes ago. Now the political science actually is mostly inculcated in political theory and government administration. Most of the time, it talks about how the government should function and what is the formal structure, etc. But actually, it forgets the actual functioning of any government structure that is in place. This actual study is given by sociological studies and the sociologists. They study the actual dynamics, and this will be helpful for political parties or governments that are in place. And over the period of time, you even get to know that the democracy within the party, that is the voting and the selection of candidates within the party, and the type of vote banks they have, and that how the social mobilization is taking place for in favor of a party or against of the party. Every sociological aspect that has been developed over a period of time is due to sociology. Earlier political science is mostly a theoretical part, and now the practical angle is inculcated due to social, that is political sociology. And with respect to history, history is actually related to most ancient type of history, that is they are more involved in ancient past, but sociology is actually interested in contemporary or recent past. And history actually looks into things as they are. Here we can say they too went into objective study and they just observe things, what happened. But sociology, as we have said earlier, the positive sociology thing that it is objective study, and over a period of time there is another sociology, post positive sociology, which actually looks into analytical angle. They even analyze how it happened, why it happened, why this phase to that phase, why, what are the reasons. Also, the conventional historians actually looked into history of kings and war, etc. They are less bothered about the societies, and over a period of time, ethnic studies to happen, subaltern histories to encountered, and over a period of time, social history actually developed, and the social patterns, gender relations, customs, cultures, institutions over a period of time, etc. were even studied. And now we look into the sociology and psychology. Psychology, as we know, primarily deals with the individual and his intentions, emotions, motivations, how the brain functions. There is a slight biological thing, but at the same time, mostly it's cognitive and emotional thinking of an individual that is primarily studied in psychology. But in sociology, how individual behaves with a society, with other fellow human beings, and how personality of a human being is impacted by the society or fellow human beings. That is, mutual reciprocity is actually studied by sociologists. Give a boost to this angle, Durkheim studied suicide in a sociological perspective. Till then, the suicide actually been seen as a psychological problem, but he actually pointed out the social impact on individual, which ultimately leading to suicides. We will look into that later. Right now, I can say that the student suicides are actually because of lack of integration, and the farmer suicides are because of over regulation. There are two factors, that is level of integration and level of isolation, and regulation, over regulation and under regulation. Now we'll look into the most interesting part, that is anthropology. Most individuals actually think sociology and anthropology are same. This statement is actually correct in present context, but over a period of time it changed. What it used to be earlier, now we'll look into that. See, anthropology is a wide subject and it involves archaeology, physical anthropology, that is, it involves biology too, how humans evolved. There is a biological angle in it, it is called physical anthropology, and then there is cultural history, and then there is a branch of linguistics. But their main focus is used to be simple societies. As we say, in history, it is about mostly about kings and wars, and in sociology it actually studies the contemporary society. Likewise, sociology studies the contemporary complex societies, while anthropology restricted itself to simple studies. Not now, once it used to be restricted. Now we look into the inception of social anthropology. It has a weird meaning, actually weird. This is my wording, my perspective. It developed as a reaction, as a study angle of Western anthropologists while studying non-European societies. As I said, they often believe that non-European societies were uncivilized. But how can we know that the other societies are the reality of the non-European societies? Because over a period of time, the natives like Nagas, Santals, Sudanese, etc., Sudanese actually write about their own societies, and we can get to know the reality of their societies and the perspective with which Western societies used to look at them. Comparing these two, we can say that Western modern societies were not a benchmark. For them, it's a benchmark, and they used to compare both, and that now we get to know that the remote village actually impacted by British colonialism. As we have already discussed earlier, the land laws actually are changed and the local handicrafts are collapsed. And due to this reason, The contemporary global process changing the remote villages and the term simple society doesn't work today. Hence, the anthropology too is not restricted to simple society study. Now it too expanded. But sociologists study various institutions too, like bureaucracy, religion, caste, family, kinship, etc. Research methods used by anthropology used to be different, while sociology was different. Sociology mainly involved in, as I said, quantitative research analysis methods, while social anthropologists actually conducted community studies, ethnographic research methods, etc. But over a period of time, they both interchanged their ideas. And now anthropologists use sociological research studies like quantitative, etc. And which sociologists actually get into those research methods once restricted to anthropology. This is actually a fruitful interchange between both sociology and anthropology. Hence, the chapter sociology and study is completed, and now we get to know the basics of sociology and intersectionality, etc. And we even get to these topics, concepts, etc. in deeper in chapter 2. Stay tuned to my channel and subscribe for such more interesting content. Like and comment any doubt if you have, and I will try hard to comment on any such questions. Thank you.